All right, everyone, we are live.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Alvin Morgori, and I am a community organizer and council member at Shama Sanwan's office. And yeah, thanks for joining us for our 8th year of the People's Budget. Every year, our office organizes demands during budget season to fight for every dollar for working class people over the completely unacceptable pro-corporate budgets that the mayor proposes each year. This year, in the wake of the pandemic and insanely high rents, the mayor has shamefully cut over $100 million from the Amazon tax funds, drastically lowering available funds for affordable housing in a year where rents have gone up over 25%. Before getting too far, I'd like to express solidarity with the community members and activists organizing around the solidarity budget. We are here at our office. We urge you to, organize alongside the people's budget, because we know that the best way to win as many victories as possible for working people is by fighting on a united basis with the collective strength of our campaigns. When we stand together, we have a much stronger chance of winning the most possible funding for affordable housing and Green New Deal projects. And in the next half hour, we'll be going over talking points and important information to know on for everyone watching this on how to get registered for public comment when he opens up in just half an hour here. And we're also very excited to have Bree from Clean Greens, who will be speaking later. So please make sure that you stay for the full meeting and don't miss that. And in the 8 years of our People's Budget, we have won working class Seattleites tens of millions of dollars for tiny house villages, homeless outreach services, senior services, and affordable housing projects. And this year is no different. We plan to come back and fight for even more for our communities. And this is a very critical time that we're in. It's completely unprecedented. Right now, 60,000 Seattleites, according to the Census Bureau, are facing an eviction, and a whopping 64% of renters fear that they will be facing an eviction within the next 2 months. And this is all the while corporate developers and landlords are raking in millions of dollars in profits at working people's expense. And we can win these absolutely urgent demands, like increasing the Amazon tax, more tiny house villages, funds to combat climate change, right? A Green New Deal. And it all depends on the strength of our movement, which is exactly what we're here to do today, to prepare to make our voices heard in just a few hours at the first budget public hearing, where we can demand that the city political establishment, the Democrats, follow through on their commitment to the communities and fight for our demands. So public comment period, it will be opening up in just under half an hour, but now I'm just going to kick it over to Nick, who will just give us a brief overview of the public comment process before we kick it to the rest of our program. So with that, over to Nick.
Thank you, Alvin. All right, so everyone can see my screen here. Yes. So hopefully everyone here has given public comment in the past or joined us in some of these community meetings previously. But give public comment, it's all over Zoom and online because of the pandemic. So to be able to give public comment, you're going to want to find this webpage. It should be quite simple to get to. Whatever browser you're using, you should just be able to type in Seattle Public Comment. And it should be the first link right here, this .gov link. It says seattle.gov public comment. Just click that. And it should bring you right to this page. Right at 3:30, 2 hours before the next council meeting, which will be this evening's public hearing on the budget. There'll be a form right here on this webpage that will go live that we can all fill out together to make sure we're able to sign up and get our voices heard during public comment. And if you sign up this evening because it's a public hearing, you will definitely have an opportunity to give public comment, even if you're not, the first 50 people or whatever to sign up. So it's absolutely worthwhile to do it, but definitely if we can all kind of get on as quickly as possible, that's ideal because these things can run kind of late. So as we go through the rest of this community meeting, definitely have this page pulled up and be ready to write when it goes live at 3:30. We can all jump back here together and fill it out so we can all bring our voices and the voice of our movement into the public hearing later this evening. Thanks. I'll send it back to Alvin.
Hi, I'm actually going to go hop in next. My name is Bia. I'm a community organizer in Councilmember Sawant's office, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the various demands of the people's budget and some of the context of this fight that we're waging this year. Because every year our people's budget campaigns have succeeded in organizing ordinary people to put pressure on the Democrats in City Hall to win a series of significant victories, including tens of millions of dollars in affordable housing, services for homeless neighbors, restorative justice, and renter organizing and attorney services against evictions. Most importantly, the People's Budget campaign in the autumn of 2017 laid the groundwork for our Tax Amazon movement to win our historic Amazon tax last year. To fund the urgent needs of working people in Seattle, this year we're fighting to massively expand the Amazon tax as the most important source of progressive revenue in this city that transfers wealth directly from the billionaires to the hands of working people. So I'm going to go through a list of our people's budget demands now, and while there are a lot of them, we should definitely plan for our public comment to pick out one or two key demands to emphasize. We'll likely each have a minute to speak, so plan to keep your points brief and impactful as much as possible. And then just to kind of give a little bit of intro to how you want to give your public comment, start with a short introduction about yourself. So for example, you would say maybe I'm a renter in District 3, or I'm a renter in whatever district or neighborhood you live in, or you're an activist, maybe say that you're an activist with the People's Budget, or that you were active in the BLM protests and the Tax Amazon movement last year, or whatever organization that you're with that you're calling from. Amplify a few concrete demands of the People's Budget 2021 campaign. It'd be great, I think powerful if folks came in with talking about how the People's Budget has been a really excellent vehicle for working people to get organized and win significant progressive gains every year since 2014. And then, definitely want to express solidarity with the community members speaking on behalf of the Solidarity Budget, really urging these movements to get united to win the maximum possible funding for affordable housing and Green New Deal programs. So to start with our really exciting list of people's budget demands this year, we want to increase the Amazon tax by $120 million to expand funds for affordable housing and Green New Deal projects, including urgent building, home and home weatherization. The scale and severity of the impacts of climate change require that we put forward bold demands on the city establishment to increase weatherization funds, demand that the city create thousands of green union jobs to retrofit existing buildings all across Seattle to run on renewable energy. And ultimately, for poor and working people to be able to stay in these retrofitted homes and buildings, we'll need universal rent control with no loopholes. And, as a side note, we're going to continue this fight for rent control later this year. But ultimately, these things are all connected. We want to add over $106 million for affordable housing within that. And so when the Amazon tax was won in 2020, 62% was intended to fund affordable housing. But Mayor Durkin's proposed 2022 budget dedicates only $38.6 million of the expected $145 million of these funds in 2022 for affordable housing, which is a reduction of $106 million in funding for affordable housing. So then we also want to add $13 million for building weatherization and low income subsidies to transition homes from oil and natural gas heaters to electric. And so then I'm going to kind of go through some of these a little bit in a little bit more detail. So, these funds for weatherization, were intended for housing and the Green New Deal, but these have been instead used by the political establishment to shore up against other budget cuts because of the economic crisis. We really reject this divide and conquer trick and demand that budget cuts be prevented to essential services and that last year's promise for affordable social housing and Green New Deal programs be fulfilled. This can really only be done by increasing the Amazon tax rate, right? Big corporations and the wealthy can certainly afford it. The billionaires have become trillions of dollars richer just this year in the US and, over $10 trillion richer globally. So, so we really need to increase the tax rate of the Amazon tax. We also want to add $4.6 million to open 3 new tiny house villages and follow through on opening the 3 villages that the People's Budget won funding for last year. We want to provide bridge funding for the New Hope Community Development Institute and the Low Income Housing Institute to buy a local building, which will enable dozens of affordable homes in the Central District. We also want to place we also want to fund the urgent needs of unsheltered neighbors to live in their vehicles, such as RVs, because of the stunning housing affordability crisis. As Alvin mentioned, rents have gone up over 25% this year, and so many of our neighbors and working people have been forced to live on the streets in vehicles or in RVs. And so we want to fund 3 safe parking lots with case management and other services. We want to fund garbage pickup for vehicular residents, both in safe parking lots and on city streets, and a septic system pump out for vehicular residents, both in safe parking lots and on city streets. So that's kind of an overview of some of the things on our people's budget list, and I'm going to send it back to Alvin to go over some of the others. Yeah, again, it's a lot of things, but we'll also have the email blast that just went out, if folks want to reference that, from our office, has all of these things written out, and is a great resource for folks to use to guide their comment.
Yeah, thanks, Bia. And yeah, I'll just be going over the rest of the demands. Right now, we have another demand to fund housing services cut by to fund housing and services cut by Jenny Durkin's proposed $13 million police budget expansion. It's absolutely egregious that the police are getting more money, especially after the harassment and brutality that I'm sure many of us experienced at their hands during last summer's protest. And this includes in Mayor Durkin's proposal a $1 million increase for restarting police recruitment and retention, such as hiring bonuses. And it's absolutely absurd considering that police officers are some of the highest paid city employees. And also where are the hiring bonuses for social workers, for people actually engaging with community and not brutalizing the very communities that they're supposed to serve. And we're also demanding a cut of the Office of Inspector General. It's proposed that they get an additional $650,000, and we want to cut this because the Office of Inspector General does pretty much nothing. They do not need more money to not do anything, and this money is way better suited for going towards the community, funding services that we actually need. We're also demanding to hire 10 more staff members for the city's Office of Labor Standards. This would be to the tune of $1.4 million a year. And this is to greatly ramp up addressing wage theft and the extreme backlog of cases, which we're taking an average of 1.5 years to investigate due to the high volume of complaints and also chronic short staffing in the department. Wage theft makes up by a lion's share most of all thefts and robberies in the country. And in our capitalist system, of course, that the city establishment does not chooses not to enforce these crimes, but at the same time enforcing punitive measures on working class people. And we also we want to fund renter organizing by dedicating at least $500,000 to this. And as has been mentioned here, rents have gone up an insane amount, and corporate landlords and developers try to use every trick in the book, anything that they can muster to try to intimidate tenants out of moving out of the apartment, putting people in really just subpar living conditions. And these funds are greatly needed to help tenants get organized and fight against this corporate greed of landlords. We also want to add funds necessary for the city to administer the Economic Displacement Relocation Assistance Program. Just a few weeks ago, on September 27th, our movement, the Renters' Rights Struggle, won a massive victory, and we forced the City Council to vote yes on the Economic Displacement Relocation Assistance Ordinance, a little bit of a mouthful, from our office, Councilmember Sawant's office, which requires landlords to pay 3 months rent in relocation assistance to the tenants they forced to leave because the rent increases by 10% or more. And to enforce this law, the department needs to be staffed adequately and funded adequately. And this demand goes to ensure that, so that we can have this much needed protection for working class people who have just been displaced by the massive rents. And we also want to fund services for Vietnamese seniors, as the People's Budget movement advocated for last year. And these funds are going towards providing lunches and recreational activities for seniors to become, to remain involved and active and engaged within the community. And just in a minute here, we'll be hearing from Bree from Clean Greens. And I just want to go over our another demand, which is to add $200,000 to fund Clean Greens, which is a Seattle Central District based nonprofit organization, which is dedicated to providing locally grown, affordable produce to the Seattle community. Clean Greens directly distributes fresh, organic local produce free of charge in Seattle Central area, which especially increases access to fresh produce for working and low-income families. And this produce is farmed locally with the help of community volunteers. Clean Green reports they receive far more requests for produce than they can actually produce. And these funds go towards further expanding their reach and the amazing work that they do. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bree from Clean Greens to talk more about the amazing work that they do, providing healthy, high quality, affordable produce, and to also talk about some of our exciting demands around New Hope and affordable housing. So Bree, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Breon Scott, Director of Clean Greens. As you mentioned, Clean Greens we've been around for about 15 years. We initially started because we wanted to provide access to organic vegetables for families who could not afford vegetables. But as this pandemic has happened, as the rise of rent has happened, all of this change, we have turned to being able to give it away for free. And so with that, the demands is greater. And as you said, we are ran mostly by volunteers, but we have a small staff, and most of our staff are living in the state of Washington. So we appreciate you bringing Clean Greens in, because the program that it is needed. Access is needed for communities who, especially those who are being forced out due to the rise in rent. We've given away 7 tons last year, and we're projected to do the same this year, or if even more. So it is very important to keep this going. We're not only providing access to organic vegetables, we're also educating low-income families of the produce. We have a youth program that we're trying to hold on to. We were only able to have like a small amount of youth, and we would like to expand that as well. So there's a lot of things going on where we're just standing with our community, making sure that they have the access, making sure that they have the education behind it and the health behind the produce. And with New Hope, we're standing with New Hope as well, who wants to build about 85 units for low-income families. This is very important for our community, because even working with the produce this year, it's been kind of hard for people to get to us because they're further out. And I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But we just want to create access, and we want to bring our people back into our community. And this is why the work is really important for New Hope to get those 85 units. We passed unanimously, and we just want to make sure that that money does go to New Hope so we can build these housings for families who cannot afford to live in the state of Washington. And we would love to continue on with the Clean Greens mission of providing fresh produce and fresh organic produce. Most people can't afford produce, period, but we want to provide fresh organic produce, because we know food is health and food is a social justice issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brianna. And yeah, Clean Greens is doing some absolutely amazing work there, and which is even really highlights the need for us to stand together with Clean Greens and all these other community groups and our community members, in fighting for the people's budget and fighting for especially affordable housing. Bree mentioned the New Hope housing project, For those of you who may not know, just in August, our office, along with Reverend Jeffrey of New Hope Baptist Missionary Church, along with Black clergy in the Seattle area, we passed a resolution committing the city to New Hope the $10.4 million to build these affordable housing units. And this is, giving preference to community members who have been displaced or under threat of displacement from the sky. And now we're following through that resolution and actually getting those funds, which would be an amazing win. Black community here in Seattle, which is, the central area has been ground zero for gentrification, and also, for affordable housing, and we desperately need more. And we're just under 5 minutes out from under 8 minutes out from when public comment opens up. So we're getting ready to real soon. We just went over the list of demands, and I just want to reiterate that there is a lot of detail in those demands, and it may seem overwhelming. There's a huge list, but again, like Bia mentioned, we recommend just picking one or two core demands, something that really resonates with you, and then sticking with that. We have an email blast, which will be shared in the comments in the live stream, which has everything written out there, so you can take your time and pick something, and craft your public comment to be as clear and as sharp as possible. And again, we only have just about 1 minute. So I'm just going to turn it over to Bia for a little bit before we go back to Nick.
Yeah, I just want to, I think, just re-highlight sort of the context in which we are fighting for these demands, right? Basically some of these stats, Alvin kind of mentioned them at the beginning, but the COVID pandemic continues to wreak havoc on the economy and working class families, marginalized communities especially. US billionaires have gotten $1.8 trillion richer during the pandemic, which is an increase of 62%. And globally, billionaires have gotten $10.2 trillion richer than they were at the start of the pandemic. And so in this context, Mayor Durkan's budget, which cuts $100 million from the Amazon tax, is despicable. It's really beyond unacceptable. And the daily struggle that most people are facing in the city of Seattle is astounding. And this is why we are fighting for these demands for affordable housing, for the Green New Deal, the climate catastrophe that continues to impact us already and is sure to worsen as years go on. This is, the fight that we have in front of us is a fight that we know we can win, right? Because just like Alvin mentioned, on the 27th, September 27th, we won two huge renters' rights victories. And we won because, folks showed up to public comment and called in and made their voices heard and put pressure on the Democrats in city council to pass these bills that faced significant opposition from the corporate landlord lobby that's really powerful and has a lot of influence over these corporate Democrats. And so this is what we have to do tonight. We have to show up, sign up as soon as possible, as we can at 3:30 when Nick is we're going to send it over to Nick just in time to go over signing up right at 3:30, and then comment at 5:30 tonight at this budget hearing. And we have to fight for a budget that works for all working people and that doesn't fund big business and the billionaires. It's a huge budget that the city of Seattle has. And that should go to working people who make the city run, who make the profits for corporations and for these billionaires. So I'm really excited to see, all the folks who are joining us on this live stream right now, and really excited to hear all the great comment tonight. So I'm going to send it back over to Nick.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute for a second. Hello once again, everyone. Allow me one moment. I'll kind of get this live public comment back up. Hopefully everyone still has that page ready that we're on before this one right here, for the public comment sign up that should go live in about 5 minutes here. I'll just be refreshing the page with everyone. Hopefully you can join me. And again, just like folks were saying, when we're giving public comment, want to not only talk about, state your name, but if you're from a community organization or a union, anything that really speaks to the behalf of a wider group of organized people that want to fight for something, want to fight for a better world and a budget that reflects the needs of everyday people, definitely bring that in. That whatever we can do to put extra pressure on the city council, that's what we want to be doing, right? Like, this is a massive opportunity for us to really punch as hard as we can against kind of this establishment status quo. You know, for years before the people's budget, they used to all have like a week retreat at resorts to be wined and dined by big business every year before the people's budget or before they did the budget discussions, where they would hear what big business wanted to do. And it's really the strength of our movement that shook that up and made that untenable for the city council establishment to keep doing, to just continue to give big business everything they wanted and not listen to everyday people. And, you know, that's just a small impact that we've been able to make, and we can do a lot more, but it all depends on the collective strength of our movement, how organized we are to fight for a serious set of demands and a different vision for how things can be. And that's, you know, what it's all about, is fighting for a vision that has the idea of dignity for everyday working class people in mind, for marginalized communities not be over policed, for people to not have to see all their neighbors decimated on the streets, to not have to be in constant fear that you're one missed paycheck away from ending up on the streets yourself, because there's nowhere to live in this city. I was looking at some of the prices of even the luxury buildings that are being built. All the current housing that's being built in Seattle, and a lot of places, for instance, in the Denny Triangle, are going for $4,700 a month for a 2-bedroom, as high as an $11,000 a month for a 2-bedroom. That's completely unaffordable for everyday people. No one makes that. Rents have gone up 25%. I don't think anyone in this live stream has probably seen their wages go up anything close to that. And that's reality we have to fight back against. But the only way we fight back is relying on each other and doing things like this, doing the people's budget, raising our voices collectively and saying we demand a difference. Because yeah, as others just said, one of the most pressing things in front of us is this fight for affordable housing that we desperately need. The vast majority of housing built in the last 10 years has all been luxury housing that's totally out of the price range of everyday people. So it's, and we can't rely on just the for-profit market to solve that for us. That's how we got here, is relying only on the market solutions. We have to take things to our hand and demand change. So yeah, hopefully everyone is feeling confident now and equipped to really come into this public hearing as part of the people's budget, as a unified kind of force, so we can really make a serious impact and take things up. This is only the first public budget hearing. It's going to be a lot. There's going to be at least one more. And I'm sure there's going to be a ton of lobbyists in the back rooms of City Hall trying to get their stuff passed. So it's always how much pressure can we put on to really counter that. And if, you know, we can generate a lot, if there's a lot of us, we can win a lot more even than what we put forward today. But it always depends on the strength of our movement, how much we can really win. And yeah, I mean, it really will be crucial. Even like last year, we won funding for new tiny house villages, and the mayor's totally sad on that. We've got to then not released it while we're facing an incredible housing crisis. While homelessness continues to go up, and we know that when rents go up 10% in an area, homelessness goes up 15%. We've known that for years. Plenty of studies that show that the city establishment's been totally loath to do anything about it. We know the clear answer is actual housing, and we can't build it overnight. We need things that have proven to be the most effective way to get people immediately off the streets, like tiny house villages. But the establishment continues to double down, not funding that, withholding funds that we've already won, and doubling down sweeps. It's totally unacceptable. Yeah, that's why we're here today. It should be live at this point. Hopefully others forums have gone live. I'll just keep refreshing. Yours is live. You should see pretty straightforward. You want to fill out the thing in its entirety, and I'll go through that, of course, with everyone once. Mine is live here as well. Yeah, I just want to double down on people saying, like, you speak for your behalf of a community organization or a union, definitely say you're part of the people's budget movement. Again, just a way to speak on the fact that we're organized on a wider scale. That really does put serious heat under the city council, as well as saying like, not only calling them out, but oh, it's live. Okay. Allow me to pause that thought. Everyone should see this page. Now that you should be able to sign up, jump on there with me. You should have this page filled out or ready to be filled out. So just type in your first name naturally, last name, put in your email. And importantly, this is the email where you will get a Zoom link for the public budget public hearing to get on to give your public comments. So make sure this is an email that you can access. Yeah, as soon as you fill this out, you should get an email to whatever this email that you put in here with the link for the meeting later today. So fill that out. Put in the last 5 digits of your phone number. This is how you'll be identified on the stack when they're calling through the public comment. Yeah, so make sure that's accurately reflects your real phone, so that you'll be able to effectively give the public comment. Click this. You really put anything in your agenda item, you type whatever you want, just hit submit. I like to kind of put something in, that directly reflects. Oops, that was not great grammar. There we go. Something that directly reflects the demands that we're trying to make. I'm not going to hit submit because I can't give public comment as a council staff person, but you definitely can. And importantly, again, everyone that signs up is going to be able to give public comment tonight. So do it as quickly as possible. It could go very late. The sooner you sign up, the higher chance you have of giving public comment very quickly. So yeah, I'll stop talking now. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And I really look forward to hearing everyone's testimony as part of the People's Budget Movement this evening. Thank you. Oh, I should just wrap us up, shouldn't I? That's on me. All right. Hopefully everyone signed up. And that's our community meeting. Definitely, there should be talking points posted in the chats that everyone can utilize if you don't have them all totally memorized from this community meeting. Feel free to utilize those. And we will see you all in about 2 hours over Zoom.